My fingers trembled on the steering wheel, my nails digging so deeply into my palms that blood oozed out unnoticed. Fear, like a cold viper, slithered up my spine and into my brain, devouring the last shred of my sanity. Just 3 hours earlier, Marcus had slammed me to the marble floor of our foyer. His leather shoe crushed my wrist with a force that felt like it would shatter my bones, a sharp crack that echoed in my ears, leaving my entire body numb with dread. "Who do you think you are?" questioning me. His voice was slurred with whiskey, his breath hot on my face, a nauseating mix of tobacco and sweat. I'd scrambled for my phone lying on the floor, my only lifeline, but he'd kicked me hard in the ribs. My lower back slammed into the corner of the shoe cabinet, stealing my breath and blurring my vision as consciousness flickered between clarity and blackness. This wasn't the first time. Over 3 years of marriage, Marcus's violence had coiled around my life like a vine, tightening its grip with each passing day, from accidental shoves to deliberate punches, and now, unprovoked rages that grew more brutal by the month. I'd tried calling the police before, but every time they arrived, he'd put on a show of abject remorse, sobbing and confessing to momentary weakness from work stress, all while shooting me silent warnings to stay quiet. My injuries, either hidden by clothes or too minor to qualify as substantial harm, left the police with no choice but to issue a perfunctory warning and leave. After the last visit, he'd locked me in the basement for 2 days, no food, no water, just cold concrete and endless darkness. Huddled in the corner, listening to him pace upstairs, fear had drowned me like a tide. I'd even begun to doubt myself. Had I done something wrong? Was I destined to endure this? After that, I'd never dared seek help again. I knew each cry for aid would only bring more unspeakable retribution. The rain intensified, blurring the highway ahead. I floored the gas pedal, the engine's roar drowning out my ragged breathing. I just needed to escape that house of screams and terror, to flee the monster disguised as my husband. There was only one thought in my mind: go home to my parents. They lived in a single-family villa on the outskirts of Portland, the house where I'd grown up, with white picket fences and a garden bursting with roses. I'd once thought it a permanent safe haven, a place I could return to no matter how wronged I was. Even now, I clung to a fragile hope that blood ties would move them to give me shelter. As I pulled into the familiar neighborhood, my heart hammered so violently it felt like it would burst from my chest. My parents' house was bathed in warm light, visible through the windows, but that light filled me with an inexplicable chill. I took a deep breath, pushed open the car door, and was instantly soaked to the skin. The rain clung to my clothes like Marcus's touch, sickeningly cold. I hurried to the door, hesitating for a long moment, my finger hovering over the doorbell before finally pressing it. Each second of waiting felt like an eternity. My mother answered. When she saw me, her smile froze instantly, like ice. "Elena? What are you doing here?" Her voice held a hint of surprise, but more so a subtle distance. She didn't even glance at the gruesome bruise on my face. I stared at her, my lips trembling as tears poured down my cheeks, mixing with the rain to form a cold, bitter stream. "Mom, Marcus hit me. Look." I pointed to my face, my voice choked and barely intelligible. "He almost killed me. I have nowhere else to go. Please, can I stay for a few days?" "Just a few." My mother frowned. Instead of stepping aside to let me in, she took an instinctive step back, as if recoiling from something filthy. "Come in, then. The rain's too heavy, we don't need the neighbors gossiping." Her tone was eerily flat, devoid of even a flicker of concern, only worry about being seen. I stepped into the living room. My father sat on the couch watching TV, the sound of laughter on the screen clashing sharply with the icy atmosphere of the house. He looked up at me, his gaze as cold and detached as if I were a stranger. "Another fight with Marcus?" His voice held no warmth, only irritation. I told them everything, my terror during his first outburst, the despair of being locked in the basement, the helplessness of almost dying that afternoon. I cried as I spoke, every word dripping with blood and tears. I'd thought they'd comfort me, rage on my behalf, let me stay, protect me. But I was wrong. Horribly wrong. After I finished, my father fell silent for a long time. Then he spoke slowly, his voice like stone. Elena, you're married now. When a daughter marries, she's like water thrown on the ground, impossible to retrieve. You're Marcus's wife now, your problems are his to solve. Running back to your parents crying like this, it's embarrassing. I couldn't believe my ears, as if struck by lightning. My body went rigid. Dad, what are you saying? He tried to kill me, and you want me to solve it myself? How? By letting him finish the job. My voice rose sharply, cracking with desperate sobs. My mother sighed and placed a hand on my shoulder, her touch cold enough to make me shudder. Elena, marriage is full of ups and downs. Marcus is a good catch, stable job, wealthy family. You're lucky to be married to him. Men get stressed sometimes, they lose control. As his wife, you need to be more forgiving, more patient. Take care of him properly, and he'll stop hitting you. Forgiving? Patient? I let out a bitter, hysterical laugh, tears streaming harder. He threw me to the floor, crushed my wrist, and almost paralyzed me. That's ups and downs? This is domestic violence. It's a crime. Don't you understand? I pointed to my face, then lifted my shirt to reveal the black and blue bruises on my lower back. This is your idea of luck? Well, I don't want it, you can have it. My father's face darkened with disgust. Watch your tone, Elena. We fed you, clothed you, gave you a beautiful wedding, and married you into a good family. We fulfilled our duty as parents. Now that you're married, it's your responsibility to make your marriage work, not to throw a tantrum here and shame us. Shame you? My heart felt as if it had been impaled by an ice pick, bleeding profusely. Dad, Mom, I'm your daughter. You're watching me get beaten within an inch of my life, and not only won't you help me, you're telling me to go back and endure more? How can you be so cruel? My mother's eyes darted away, avoiding my gaze. Her voice was as cold as the rain outside. It's not that we won't help, Elena. But you're married now, your home is with Marcus, not us. If you keep running back here, people will say we raised a disobedient daughter. We'll be the laughingstock of the neighborhood. The neighbors' opinions? Your pride? My voice turned hoarse with despair. You care more about these meaningless things than whether I live or die. What am I to you, just a trophy to decorate your perfect life? I stared at them, my heart turning to ice. I remembered when I was little, if I fell, Dad would scoop me up immediately, blowing gently on my scrapes to soothe the pain. If other kids bullied me, Mom would march right over to defend me, shielding me behind her. But now, they were strangers, cold, indifferent, as if I'd never been their child. Stop being unreasonable, Elena, my father snapped, his voice laced with threat. We don't have a spare room, and if Marcus comes looking for you here, we don't want the trouble. You made this mess, you fix it. Trouble? I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. You're afraid he'll cause you trouble, but you're not afraid he'll kill me? I'm your flesh and blood. My father stood up and stepped closer, his eyes cold and unflinching. If you keep pestering us like this, we won't hesitate to call the police. Get out of here now, go back to your own home. Don't ruin our peace. I can't go back. I screamed, my voice raw with despair. Going back means death. He'll never let me live. That's not our problem, my father said, his words like a sharp knife slicing through the last thread of our bond. You're no longer part of this family. The day you married Marcus, you cut ties with us. Leave, and never come back. My mother nodded in agreement, her tone brimming with impatience. Listen to your father, Elena. Men hitting their wives isn't a big deal, just endure it. Be a good wife to Marcus, stop overreacting, and don't bother us again. I looked at their cold, impassive faces. I felt utterly abandoned by the world. The home I'd once thought the warmest place on earth had become a frozen hell. Their words were like 1,000 knives, wounding me more deeply than Marcus's fists ever could. I couldn't bear it any longer. I turned and ran out into the rain, tears and rainwater mingling on my face, indistinguishable and equally frigid. I climbed back into the car and turned the key, but I had no idea where to go. I couldn't return to Marcus's house, and my parents had cast me out. I was like a kite with a broken string, drifting aimlessly through the rainy night, no direction, no haven. I drove on, wandering aimlessly along the highway. The rain continued to pour, the night growing darker and denser, wrapping around me like a suffocating black net. My parents' words replayed in my mind on a loop: married daughters are like water thrown away, that's not our problem. They echoed like a curse, eroding my sanity. I couldn't understand, why did marriage erase me as their daughter? Why did blood tie crumble so easily beneath outdated traditions? How could they watch me suffer and do nothing? After driving for what felt like hours, the car sputtered to a stop, out of gas. I sat there, staring into the pitch-black night, overcome by a soul-crushing despair. I pulled out my phone, desperate to call a friend, but the screen was dark, dead. I curled up in the seat, trembling violently, not from cold, but from terror and helplessness. I even found myself thinking, maybe Marcus was right. Maybe I was worthless, deserving of all this pain. Just as I was on the verge of collapse, ready to give up on everything, I saw a glimmer of light in the distance. It was a police car, approaching slowly. I stumbled out of the car as if grasping at a lifeline, running into the rain without hesitation. Officer, please. Help me. I waved my arms frantically, my voice hoarse with urgency. The police car pulled over, and 2 officers stepped out. When they saw me, soaked, bruised, and disheveled, their brows furrowed with concern. Ma'am, what happened? One of them asked gently. I cried as I told them everything: Marcus's years of abuse, my parents' cruel rejection. Every word was steeped in blood and tears. The officers' expressions hardened into anger and sympathy. Ma'am, please get in the car. We'll take you to the station, you're safe now. I slid into the back seat, wrapping the blanket they offered around me. They handed me a cup of warm water, and for the first time in hours, my tense muscles relaxed slightly. Don't worry, ma'am, one officer said. We won't let him hurt you again. At the police station, they took a detailed statement and contacted a hospital for me. The doctor confirmed a minor fracture in my lower back, severe soft tissue damage in my wrist, and numerous bruises, irrefutable evidence of domestic violence. The officers informed me they would serve Marcus with an emergency restraining order, barring him from coming within 100 yards of me. They also contacted a local women's shelter, arranging for me to stay there until I was safe from Marcus's threats. The next day, I checked into the shelter. As I pushed open the door, I saw more than a dozen women with stories similar to mine, scars on their faces, pain and hopelessness in their eyes, but also a faint glimmer of hope for the future. Here, there was no judgment, no indifference, only understanding and compassion. The staff provided us with food, shelter, and counseling. They listened patiently to our stories, encouraging us to face our pasts bravely and rebuild our lives. At the shelter, I met Sophia, a Mexican woman who'd endured 5 years of abuse from her husband and been disowned by her family for bringing shame to them. We comforted each other, supported each other, and became fast friends. Sophia told me she'd filed for divorce and found a job, ready to start over. Elena, we're not weak, we just fell in love with the wrong people. But we don't have to drown in this pain forever. We have to stand up and live for ourselves. Her words ignited a spark in me. I resolved to stop being a victim, to fight back, to claim my freedom and dignity, and to help other women do the same. I threw myself into therapy, slowly healing from the trauma of abuse and rebuilding my self-worth. I studied legal rights for domestic violence survivors and volunteered at the shelter, learning everything I could to empower myself and others. I knew that only through financial independence and self-reliance could I truly break free from Marcus, and from the cycle of abuse. Months later, my divorce was finalized, and Marcus was prosecuted for domestic violence, facing the consequences of his actions. With the shelter's support, I became its director. I shared my story with every new survivor who walked through the doors, telling them, "You are not alone. This is your home now, and we will face this together." I organized legal workshops to help women file restraining orders and divorce petitions. I hosted skills training sessions to help them achieve financial independence. I created support groups where women could lean on each other for strength. Today, the shelter is thriving. We're like a family, supporting each other, growing together. Some sisters have found fulfilling jobs, others have built new, loving families, and many have become volunteers themselves, paying it forward to help others. We've proven with our lives that domestic violence is never a private matter, it's a crime. We've shown that women are never weak. United, we can shatter the chains that bind us. I never contacted my parents again. I know they're trapped by outdated traditions and selfishness, stripped of basic empathy and love. I don't hate them, I pity them. They've spent their lives living for the approval of others, never understanding the true meaning of family. Now, I live a full and purposeful life. Watching women transform from broken victims to strong survivors, witnessing the smiles return to their faces, makes every struggle worth it. I often think back to that rainy night, Marcus's violence, my parents' coldness, my own despair. But those memories are no longer scars, they're fuel. They taught me that a woman's greatest strength doesn't come from marriage or family, it comes from within, and from the solidarity of other women. Married daughters are like water thrown away, I'll never forget those words. But I'm determined to consign them to history, to relegate them to the trash heap of outdated beliefs. I want to prove that women are not mere droplets to be discarded, we are rivers and oceans, capable of overcoming any obstacle, we are vines and thorns, gentle yet resilient, bound together in strength. Domestic violence is never a solo battle, it's a collective journey of redemption. When women stand together, supporting and uplifting one another, there's no darkness we can't overcome, no barrier we can't break. I believe every woman who has suffered abuse can rise from the ashes, can forge a life of joy and freedom. And I'll be here, standing firm, until every survivor finds safety, until every voice is heard, and until the cruel myth of castaway daughters is erased from the world forever.